It's day 206.
of the 29th year and beyond. Well, this past weekend I had some downtime because I was by myself.
Okay.
And I watched a couple of documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched one that was called Unseen.
Right.
And it talked about these women who had been killed in Ohio by the serial killer. But because of who they were or what people perceived them to be, it went really no one even investigated these women's death, even though it was in the same neighborhood, over a course of a couple of years. And it, sort of got me to thinking about how people sort of don't really see what they do see,
Okay.
and how a marriage, the inner workings of a marriage, can be unseen.
Right.
And, then I thought, well, what is the measure of a marriage?
What is the measure of a marriage? So obviously you've given this some thought. What is the measure of a marriage?
Well, I think the measure of a marriage is not really what you end up with. It's not the money that you have at the end. It's not the all the things you've acquired. Is the measure of your marriage is what you bring to the table at the end of the day. So at the end of your lifespan, what can you say that that person gave to you, or what can you say that
So
person?
what I hear you saying is legacy.
Yes.
There's a movie, I think it's called Shall We Dance?
I remember that movie.
And Richard Gere was married to Susan Sarandon.
Mm-hmm.
And his life was so humdrum and, just monotonous.
Right.
And one day on the train from work, he sees Jennifer Lopez
Right.
in the window of a dance studio.
Mm-hmm.
And he begins to take dance lessons because it was something different, something that was stretching his boundaries.
Right.
And his wife realized that his routine had changed. And unfortunately, she began to think maybe he had started an affair.
Of course.
So she gets a private investigator and to follow him and to kind of ascertain what's going on. But there's an interesting exchange with her at a bar with this investigator, and she asks, "Why do people get married?" And one of the things that she says, and I mean this is not verbatim, but she says, "Because you need someone to be a witness for your life, to say I mattered, that I counted, and that you will notice me. I will not go unnoticed."
Yeah, we covered that in a post.
Yeah, we did.
We did. And, when I was watching this documentary, I mean, it just really started to eat away at me because I was like, you see all these rich people on TV talking about, the real housewives of this and the real housewives of that and all this kind of stuff. But what is the measure of their marriage? I mean, what do they really have? I mean, why are people even watching and listening to them?
Well, when you're talking about going unnoticed, though, I mean, you can go unnoticed with extravagance.
You can.
You can have all the things and all the stuff that life says you should have to be somebody, and yet still, in actuality, be a nobody because no one would miss you.
Yeah.
I think about persons that live alone. And there have been opportunities where people have died.
Yeah.
And for days, nobody knows because they've gone unnoticed. And so, to answer your question, the measure of a marriage, I would say, is to piggyback on what Susan Sarandon said in that movie. To have someone to be a witness of the great things and the mundane things, all of the things, because that says that you matter.
Exactly. And that's what irritated me the most about that whole story was because even though these were crackheads, supposedly, they still were someone's daughter,
Right.
someone's mother,
Someone's
sister,
Right.
someone's best friend. And the measure of a marriage really is just that. It's someone that regardless of what happens,
Says your life will not go unnoticed.
right.
Because I will be your witness.
And when you're gone,
The legacy.
I'll
the
miss
way
you.
that you've impacted those persons that you've come in contact with. Make the most of every day. Make the most of your relationship until tomorrow. If the Lord says the same.
Bye.
you won't go unnoticed.